Thank you, Mr. Calderon. We do a lot of pushing in this committee. We're always pushing, and you're pushing us to set the bar high, and we appreciate you for that and your advocacy. I want to see if the members of the committee have any questions. Member Bonta, anything?
I do. Thank you for your leadership on this issue, Mr. Calderon. I really appreciate it. I couldn't agree more about the annual inspections for child care facilities. As a father who has had kids in child care facilities for the last 15 years, just recently aged out when my youngest went to kindergarten, the idea of having only the complaint-driven approach as opposed to a set annual inspection worries me, and I think we need to do better for our children. So I appreciate your leadership and your passion in support of this issue, and I thank you for your effective presentation today.
Thank you, Mr. Bonta. Thank you, Mr. Bonta. Member Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand where you're going, and I do have them, and I have to try to balance economies of scale and things like that for larger facilities versus smaller facilities like the RCFEs or 6 beds or things like that, or in child care facilities. So I think that this is a good idea if government served the community to a point where they were there to assist them to be compliant instead of punitively punish them to be compliant. And this is why I say that. In Bakersfield, we have this amazing, it's called the Downtown Education Center, amazing organization that reached into the downtown community, which is a highly low socioeconomic community, a disadvantaged community, if you want to use that word, and they offered community connection childcare for this particular community. The students that participate love it. They love going there. Parents are confident. It's a great environment. It is also a faith-based environment, even though it's not blatantly faith-based because of the government funding and stuff like that, but everybody there is just it's a great environment for children to be in. Okay, so the kids are happy. They had an inspector come in, and in the infant care, you have to be able to see infants at all times. Well, the way the cribs were set up in the room with the big glass window where you could see into the room, if you were not in the room, you could see into the room. The crib next to the window, right next to the window, you could only see half of the crib. And they were cited and fined an absorbent amount of money that was just absurd, to the point where, why didn't they just come in and go, hey, this bed's like too close to the window, you should push it out a little bit so you can see the whole bed versus half the bed? But instead, that inspector cited them and fined them. And so I think that if government would work with, this is basically, I don't want to say nonprofit, but a nonprofit organization. It's for profit, but it's like, I wouldn't invest in it as a business opportunity. Okay, so I just think that if government would work with businesses to ensure that businesses are successful and that they are complying with the law instead of punitively coming down with the hammer and slamming them every time they get a chance, I think that would be the best thing to approach. I think you're one every year. I mean, I think our inspections should be done. I really do. I look at, was it 388? What was this? AB 388? Because I voted for that as the only Republican, really. I think that voted. Jones voted no, so he doesn't count. But it had to do with general funding.
Let us stay on the issue.
It had to do with general funding for child care communities for an annual inspection. So I know that I do think that we need to make sure that our kids are safe. That is one thing. But I don't think government should be so heavy-handed just to punitively punish a business for a fine. Now, if business is doing something wrong, go after the bad actors. I don't have an issue with that. But if your crib is halfway visible and it's not fully visible, that does not warrant a punitive fine that is detrimental to where you have to close down a portion of they closed down the infant care facility because they could no longer take the risk and liability for a crib that, is moved too close to the window. And that's sad.
Thank you, Ms. Grove. While you were making your point, I watched the chief, and she nodded. I know that you have some stakeholder groups, Chief, and if you want to come back up, in case there are questions, if you've got a stakeholder group that can work to ensure, we're not looking to, just impart infractions for the sake of doing so, right? We're looking to prevent illness, injury, abuse, neglect. We're looking to promote safety and welfare. I'm assuming you've got a stakeholder group that can work on how we implement so that we're not just infracting just because of some technicality, but instead putting good best practices in place with our inspections.
Absolutely, and again, that was part of what Ms. Stickfuss was talking about in restoring our Child Care Advocates program and our Technical Assistance program. Our goal is actually compliance. We would much rather have good compliance with the rules and the regulations rather than citing people, because if you're citing people, it's after something has already happened. We would much rather prevent things from happening. So we're trying to recreate the Technical Assistance Unit, which was cut during recessionary times, to help licensees understand better what the rules are, because sometimes there's just lack of clarity. It's a really complicated system, and there's a lot to do and comply with. And so we want to help licensees be in compliance. And we're working with that was one of the things we heard last year from our advocates, from our stakeholder community, about needing more technical assistance, really wanting to have staff that they can call and not be worried that they're going to get a citation from, that they can just give advice.
Thank you, Chief Leary. We're going to go to Assemblyman Conrad in a second, then the public comment. But first, Member Jones wants to speak on this issue. You had a point of personal privilege?
No, I'm good.
Got it.
He was just being
Member Grove a bad time. Yeah.
We got you. We're not going to call anybody out for their votes here, but I am thankful that this committee sees the value of increasing the inspections. Mr. Calderon.
Yeah, and in just response to Mrs. Grove's comments, I completely agree, 100%. Government needs to be realistic in terms of what people can handle and what they can't. And it makes no good sense to send a department in specifically trying to find something that they can find somebody on, rather than just saying, hey, I'm not sure if you know this, but you're out of compliance here, maybe 30 days, you have to fix it, send us proof, like a fix-it ticket.
It would have taken 30 seconds to push the crib away from the bed.
Right.
Well,
But, we're government, so things got to always be a little more complicated. So I'm sure you got to give them, some type of timeline in which they have to be compliant. Just like when you get a fix-it ticket for your windows, you have a certain amount of time to get it taken off, and then you have to show a cop, and he signs it off, and then you're fine.
So in your bill, would you amend it to say that they'd have a 30-day right to cure?
Yeah, I'm absolutely
within reason. Like, if somebody detrimentally hurts a child, they shouldn't have the right to cure
Let's
that.
do this.
Okay.
Let's do this. The bill has already been heard in a different committee.
yes.
But there will be opportunities to discuss amendments. Let's not take that up on this floor at this time.
Well, and
He has-
specifically to what my bill is looking for, my bill isn't necessarily dealing with the punishment of what happens to you if you are not compliant. My bill strictly deals with how do you get to annual inspection. So that would be a separate issue. But I just wanted to show support in terms of what you were saying as, yeah, absolutely, issue a warning, make sure they fix it. But I think there has to be a scale depending on how egregious the act is that they fine. Then it determines, well, either you're fined on the spot or you're given a warning.
We have agreement. Let's hear from the speakers. Thank you. Public comment? Is there any public comment on this issue? 1 minute each speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Gary Passmore with the Congress of California Seniors. A couple of things. First, I want to note that we have a very different attitude about this program and the competency and the intent of the people who operate it to make the changes necessary, unlike what you heard from me yesterday about licensing and certification, just for the record. The second thing I want to point out is we strongly support annual inspections, and in fact agree not with most of what the LAO says, but with the part that says there are circumstances where you probably need the capacity to be in more frequently. For instance, if somebody is in a cure situation, then less than annual. And finally, I want to point out to Assemblymember Grove that there's an organization called the Long-Term Care Ombudsman. You've heard it out of us now time and time again, and they are exactly situated to go into at least the RCFE part of this and try to negotiate solutions on the spot or easy fixes. And we are strongly in support of the budget
Thank you.
request. Thanks.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Heather Harrison with the California Assisted Living Association. We represent residential care facilities throughout the state. We're in strong support of the increase in licensing inspections. We've been working with Assemblymember Calderon for years, and with many of you for many of those years to get back to annual inspections. This budget proposal does that for RCFEs. We'd like to see it happen sooner, but we understand the realities of getting people on board and trained. The other provisions in the budget to restore the technical support program and give the department the rest of the tools they need to do the job we all expect is something else we support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Thurman and committee members. My name is Rita Magana, Executive Vice President of ASME Local 2620. I proudly represent the roughly 480 licensing program analysts, or LPAs, within the Community Care Licensing Division. The LPAs are typically the person that responds to complaints and conducts the regular facility inspections for the department. I'm here to support the budget change proposal submitted by the Department of Social Services, in particular, the piece that would increase the frequency of inspections in all facilities that we are required to inspect. Facility inspections is the most important job that an LPA does, and currently, LPAs are mostly present at facilities to conduct complaint investigations. Inspections provide opportunities to talk with the consumer, to learn if needs are being met, to review staff records to determine if qualifications are met, and to observe staff interactions to ensure that the personal rights of our elderly, young children, developmentally, and mentally disabled are not violated. Without regular inspections, bad things happen, and the LPAs spend an enormous amount of time creating documents for review. These documents that are created include a compliance plan that summarizes the facility's non-compliance issues and recommends a course of action, a summary that documents the facility history and provides opportunity for a licensee to enter into a compliance plan prior to additional administrative action or a statement of facts which provides the basis for moving forward to revoke the facility license or issue a temporary suspension order. ASCME Local 2620 believes annual inspections of all community care licensed facilities is a more cost-effective use of taxpayer funds and ensures the health and safety of 4 of our most vulnerable populations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. I'm Joe Rodriguez, the California State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. The Office of the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman is housed within the California Department of Aging, but my opinions are mine and don't necessarily represent the positions of the department or the Health and Human Services Agency. I'm in strong support of this proposal. We've seen some significant progress in the last year under Pam Dick Foss's leadership, and I appreciate Pat Leary's comments about the Ombudsman program and how stretched we are. Last year alone, the Ombudsman program responded to 39,000 complaints, more than 39,000 complaints from residents in long-term care facilities, and we were able to resolve or partially resolve 73%, almost 3 out of every 4 complaints, to the satisfaction of the resident or complainant. Getting to Assemblymember Grove's comments about more technical assistance instead of penalization. The Ombudsman program isn't a regulatory agency, but our goal is to identify problems. So if we see problems, we can bring those problems to the attention of the facility so that they can be corrected. We're able to divert many thousands of complaints away from the more costly regulatory system through regular Ombudsman presence. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Coleman. I'm the Executive Director of CalCOA, the California Long-Term Care Ombudsman Association. We are in support of this budget increase. We are pleased that the governor has identified that community care licensing, both last year and this year, they need additional support. And as Ms. Leary said, the ombudsman programs have been stretched too thin. We have been neglected for more than 6 years now. Our ombudsman programs are starving. Our LA programs haven't received raises in 4 years. Our ombudsman program in Sacramento is losing ombudsman volunteers because of a lack of supervision. If we don't solve the little things, we will be forced to push those over to community care licensing and the Department of Public Health. If these 2 governmental agencies feel like they are burdened now, those 24,000 complaints that we did will now land on your lap. So we are in support of you getting money, but we believe that we are a partnership, and we would ask for your support in that also.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mark Victoria. I stand here first as a father. Like Assemblymember Bonta said, I fully support this 3 kids going through daycare centers, and I'm glad that CCLD was there to make sure that those facilities were high-quality facilities at the time. And secondly, I stand here as a representative of ASME Local 2620, which represents the LPAs in the field. I know Assemblymember Grove has stepped out, but we want to stand with her and say that we would love to work with her, this committee as well as the department as we have in the past to make sure that all this is, we continue to maintain annual inspections or get to annual inspections and maintain a high quality of service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Johnson with the California Alliance for Child and Family Services, representing about 115 private nonprofit agencies throughout California with a wide variety of children's residential programs licensed by Community Care Licensing. We strongly support this effort. We think that periodic, regular visits are essential for effective oversight. We also find that having qualified, experienced, and stable staff is essential. I would say the biggest source of concerns that I get from my members about CCL are when new people come in who are inexperienced and haven't got a lot of training, and that's because of the turnover of the past. And I hope this resolves it. We're particularly happy to see the restoration of the Technical Assistance Unit, because I think that gets to what Ms. Grove was talking about in terms of fix it first as opposed to citations first. I also noted there was funding for a backlog of complaints, and I think that's also essential. I would add one thing. If a provider disagrees with a citation, the appeal process, both informally in the department and Lord knows the formal process through the ALJs, takes a huge length of time. And when there's legitimate differences of opinion about was there a citation or not, or is the corrective action plan appropriate, we need to get that resolved quickly. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Emily Caruso on behalf of the California Alternative Payment Program Association. And I'm here in strong support of this proposal to increase funding to mandate more frequent inspections of child care facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your public comment. Ms. Leary, I know that there are some additional proposals in CCL and the governor's budget. If you could keep it to just a minute on each or less, could you just give us high-level view of those proposals? Really, I just want to keep it to a minute. And but before we do that, Mr. Calderon, if you want a minute just to close, and then we're going to move to these final proposals, and then we're going to close the hearing.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank the department for being here and all their hard work, and please see me as a partner in anything that I can do to help. Absolutely. Again, I'm passionate about the issue. I care about the issue. I know we all want to get there, and I think it's our job to find that path as legislators. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks
and
again.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Leary, if you could just...
Pam's going to talk about them.
Okay. Real brief, just 30 seconds on each, and because...
Okay. We have 6 bills that we're asking for positions for to implement, and they're all on the agenda. If you want me to go through them, I will. Otherwise,
real quick.
Okay. AB 1570 will increase the training requirements for RCFE applicants and the direct care staff. AB 2236 increases the monetary civil penalties for violations that result in death or serious bodily injury. SB 1153 allows CDSS to initiate a ban on new admissions when an RCFE fails to correct critical health care safety violations. And then we have AB 2171, which expands the personal rights of RCFE residents. And lastly, we have AB 388, which will it requires facilities to report to CDSS any incidents concerning a child that has contact with law enforcement. So any calls that are over the average, CCS will investigate those. We also have a BCP that's asking to convert 4 limited term positions to full-time permanent positions for the registered sex offender program. And AB 1217 is the home care services Consumer Protection Act. We're asking for positions to operationalize the program. We received resources last year to set up the registry for the home care workers to register, and this year we're going to operationalize it where we're actually receiving applications for the home care organizations and the applicants.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, this completes our agenda items for today. Ms. Leary, we look forward to our continued conversation. As you heard, there's an overwhelming support in this committee for annual inspections, and there is a bill that's working its way, at least from committee. And so I anticipate we'll have a continued conversation about how that works. So we look forward to working together with you to make that happen. Thank you. This hearing is adjourned.